Hi. Welcome to Movies Reflexed. Today, I am going to explain a horror thriller movie titled Saw 5. Watch out for spoilers. Take care. At the start of the movie, a man is shown who was entrapped by Jigsaw. He was a killer, and he was sentenced to only 5 years of jail. The injustice is obvious. So, Jigsaw wanted to implement his own justice here. He was fastened with a table tightly, and a big blade pendulum had been set above him. The blade was coming down gradually. That blade pendulum will continue to slice him. He had to crush both of his hands in order to free himself from the strap. He will be released after crushing his both hands. He only has 60 seconds for this work. That pendulum blade begins to come down as his timer starts. He is frightened enough. And he has to sacrifice his both hands unwillingly. In spite of this, the blade pendulum does not stop and begins to cut him. The blade keeps on cutting him. And he is dismembered at the fist site, giving him a horrifying death. At the same time, it is also noticed that someone is watching it while hiding himself. Now, as this trap did not operate according to Jigsaw's rule. So it is clear that this is not Jigsaw's trap. But it was the trap of someone else. Now, the ending scene of the part 4 is shown where a detective named Peter shoots the nurse's husband. And Hoffman leaves after locking him there. Being caught there, Peter is really upset. Here, he discovers a secret door. Opening that door, he gets a tape recorder behind it and he plays it. The recording was Jigsaw's and he was forbidding him to go ahead. But he steps forward through the secret way while ignoring the warning of Jigsaw. He encounters a pig-masked person who knocks him out. Waking up, he finds his head sealed in a glass box. He finds himself entrapped. That glass box begins to fill with water gradually. And time after time, it is filled with water. Here, Peter is sure that his death is inevitable. It was the punishment for him by Jigsaw. Because he had violated the rules of Jigsaw. He also understands that nothing could be done now. So, he pricks a pen into his neck and he is silent. Police approaches there and Hoffman steps outside taking the daughter of that nurse with him. Everyone was thinking the kid was killed by Jigsaw. But he had concealed her somewhere. And also, Jigsaw doesn't hurt children. Here, Hoffman was pretending that he has rescued himself along with the girl from Jigsaw. He says there are no survivors except the both of them. But his statement is proven false. When he observes that police officers have rescued Peter. Then, Hoffman gets worried seeing him alive. Afterwards, Jigsaw's file is closed with the promotion of Hoffman. Lawyer hands over the last memory of Jigsaw to his ex-wife. It was a big box. What was in the box? It remains secret. Whatever was in that box is considered important. Because his wife was also astonished seeing it. Hoffman finds an envelope in his office. When he opens it, he sees a statement saying, "I know who you are." Reading that statement, Hoffman becomes worried. He moves to that room where all the proofs were kept safe. And he steals Peter's mobile from there. Then Hoffman comes to know that female detective is no more as he comes to visit her in the hospital. Because in the last part, being blasted, Billy's hard body parts had entered into that detective and that caused her death. Peter tells Hoffman angrily that she has given the name of him before dying. And he considered her accountable. Because Hoffman was guilty in the eyes of Peter. As how can anyone escape from Jigsaw's trap without being harmed? Something like this is impossible. Hoffman doesn't take it important to reply him. Then, he leaves from there. Peter's senior officer arrives there as Hoffman leaves. He allows him a medical leave and takes the duty back of this case from Peter. He also tells Peter that the police department has closed the files of Jigsaw. But the FBI is still on its investigation till now. Hoffman reaches at a secret location where a game has been set by him. Now, as he has taken the seat of Jigsaw, so he has to continue the process of his game. That game is started while showing its miniature. There were 5 peoples. Their necks were chained which was connected with a cable. The keys of their locks had been put in a glass box in front of them. But the timer will be started if one of the persons moves forward to take it. And they will have only 60 seconds to recue themselves from that trap. If they didn't open their locks according to the given time, then their necks will be cut off with the pull of wires which are connected with the blade behind, giving them a painful death. They will have to complete more than one test to survive. And they are given some instructions which they have to follow. They all will be united today. They are instructed as they will act against their intuition. And only this way, they may survive. They are connected with one another today. They could even save themselves while just sitting here. But there was a fixed explosive on the room that was on a timer. In case of not leaving the room, they will be blasted. Hearing it, a boy among them gets frightened, and he runs to his key. And their timer starts from there. Here, they have to use their strength. There was the most powerful man who gets success to take out his key above all. After this, 3 survivors take out their keys one after another. And they are released before the completion of time. But a girl could not free herself because of that boy's haste. As a result, she is decapitated. They all move ahead as the next door room opens. A girl picks up all the keys wisely. Then Peter is shown who was on a leave. In spite of it, he was investigating the case of Jigsaw. Because he wanted to reveal the real identity of Hoffman before the world. There was much information on files. And these were checked by him. This information was going to become very helpful for his investigation. There was a long list of Jigsaw's victims. Peter observes in that file that the 3rd victim of Jigsaw was that person who was shown at the beginning of the movie. Reading this file, Peter is assured that Hoffman was working with Jigsaw for a long time. All these files were really complicated and at the same time, very valuable. So, he leaves after taking these files. And he searches about that 3rd victim of Jigsaw who was the dying person at the start of the movie. That man had murdered a girl who was no one else but Hoffman's sister. Here it was revealed that man was killed by Hoffman. And there was no chance of survival for him. Here, Peter understands everything. Hoffman's victims approaches in another room where the explosive with timer had been adjusted. There were 4 locked chambers and their keys were in the high adjusted beakers. But the most drastic thing was this, only 3 keys among 4 were available there. Before the completion of the time, they have to go inside the chamber taking the keys. Otherwise, they will not dead in the explosion. Here, that man also shows his power, but he begins to beat that obsessed boy before it because he didn't think his survival to be important. And he doesn't deserve it. He took only the others as saving worthy. He breaks all the beakers and both girls pick their own keys. That man starts top move to the chamber while picking up his key. Then, a girl attacks him from the backside. And the other boy goes inside the chamber while taking the key of that girl. And that man is killed by the explosion. Peter also comes to know that Hoffman had accompanied Jigsaw in every case exactly after the death of that man. Hoffman tried to imitate Jigsaw, but he himself was caught by Jigsaw. But Jigsaw had entrapped Hoffman in an uncomplicated trap. Because he knew that Hoffman has been impressed by his work if he has imitated him. Jigsaw wished to be followed even by his rules if someone imitates him. Jigsaw explains to Hoffman and also tells his own effective process to him. Jigsaw gives a chance to Hoffman like his other victims. His chance was to work with him. Finally, he agrees to work with Jigsaw. Hoffman accompanies Jigsaw in every trap after this meeting. And this is the cause that Jigsaw succeeded to entrap so many peoples. Hoffman was still accompanying Jigsaw. But he was assuring the senior officer that Peter is the companion of Jigsaw and he will take his works further. And it was not hard to believe on it by the senior officer. Because Peter had disappeared from there and he also took all the records about Jigsaw with him. Hoffman's victims reached their 3rd level. There were also explosives in the room, and a bathtub was also there. The next room door had 5 locks. And they had to switch off the 5 electric circuits in order to open the door. And they had to connect their wires to the bathtub in order to turn them off. They were not given a lot of time. So they decide that a person will lie down on the bathtub and they will unlock the room while connecting all the wires with him. The death of that person was sure due to the electric current who will lie down in the bathtub. And no one is ready to offer his life to it. And they will have to use their strength here. A girl among them shows the courage and others lie her down collaboratively in the bathtub after stabbing her. And they connect all the electric wires with her. And they got success to unlock that door before the completion of time. But the girl laying in the bathtub is killed by the electric shock. And they move forward. Jigsaw's wife visits the senior officer and informs him that Peter is pursuing her. It is obvious that she is telling a lie. But the reason behind it remains out of sight. And that senior officer's suspicion becomes even stronger as Peter is the companion of Jigsaw. Peter was still investigating the crime cases of Jigsaw. It is shown that Jigsaw had handed over his 5 victims' photos of continued game to Hoffman when he was taking his last breaths. It was almost impossible to escape for Peter. Because it was Hoffman who had entrapped him, not Jigsaw. In spite of it, he escaped. According to Hoffman's plan, he will be the only survivor of Jigsaw's game. And he will also rescue the life of that girl, so he will be well known in the yes of the world. Hoffman wanted to provoke the senior officer saying, Peter is the companion of Jigsaw. He was playing a psychological trick and also getting success in his plan. He starts tracing Peter's cell phone. Here, it is also known that Peter's mobile was in the possession of Hoffman, which was switched off. Hoffman visits the location where his game had been set in action. Then, switching on Peter's phone, he puts it there. Hoffman's both victims reach at their last level. There was a big box and inside it was a beaker. They understand that the door to exit will be unlocked after filling that beaker. But they didn't know how the beaker should be filled. There were also blades inside that box. It was cleared at that time that they had to fill that beaker with their blood. Here, they could also use their strength. It means other person may escape alive from there if one fills the beaker with his blood. But after observing carefully, it is revealed that there were 5 holes in the machine. It means there was the capacity of 5 peoples. They were unable to understand the cause of it. In fact, there was supposed to be 5 persons remaining here. Then the female survivor checks that her brought keys are all the same and all locks can be unlocked with 1 key. At the second level, 2 persons could also come in the chamber if they had 3 keys. Even 5 persons may survive at the second level. And at the third level, they had to connect 5 wires. Catching one by each, they could have bore the little electric current. And they all 5 could return back alive while connecting it with the bathtub. And at this level, they could fill the beaker with their blood. And all 5 of them could still escape alive. But now, they both have to fill the beaker with their blood, which was very difficult. Tracing the mobile phone of Peter, the senior officer sets off to his location. Peter reaches at that house which was seen in the part 2 while pursuing Hoffman. Peter comes down through a secret door. On the other side, both begin to fill the beaker without wasting their time. Here, all 5 peoples had to work collaboratively. Regretfully, only 2 were working now. They fill the beaker before the timer runs out. The senior officer also reaches at that location where Hoffman had conducted his game. He sees the phone is Peter there. Then, officer's doubt is turned into belief that Peter is the next companion of Jigsaw. The senior officer also encounters the both survivors who were a part of the game. And they come outside after crossing their last level. Going into a room, Peter finds a trap which was filled with pieces of glass. Peter plays the tape recorder that was kept there. While hearing it, Hoffman himself also reaches there. A fight is held between them, and Peter locks Hoffman in that box, thinking as he has caught Hoffman. But he was wrong. The room's door begins to fall because that box was thrusting into the floor. It means Peter is going to die after being crushed. Here, Peter had also ignored Hoffman as he had already boxed him. As he has to go into this box which will cause no harm to his life. Rather, he will get some minor injuries. But fate doesn't remain with him, as before it did, and he is killed by being crushed. Contrarily, he is tagged as Jigsaw's partner. But Jigsaw's real partner was still in operation. And with it, the movie ends here.